Caleb Calhoun, we have a point spread that came out, which typically doesn't happen with FCS or Division II, whatever the heck you want to call it. But there is a point spread on Tennessee. What can you tell us about the point spread in the Tennessee-Chattanooga game?
Yes, Tennessee is favored by 38.5 points with a total set at 56.5. Now, one concern for Tennessee, if you're worried, the line was initially at 41.5, and it moved down, which means that somebody in Vegas either found out something that is not to Tennessee's advantage that we don't know about on the inside, or somebody analytically realized they made a big mistake. So,
John, what do you think of that line at 38.5?
When you were saying that, the lines I've seen did not include FCS teams. So that when I was making my SEC picks for this week, I was looking at those lines. But when you were saying that, I was thinking 38 points. So that's kind of what it was. However, I think it's really hard on these odds makers early in the year, particularly now with the transfer portal. Just for fun, I picked those couple of games I watched. I didn't bet, but I picked a couple of games, and I took the underdog just without thinking. Florida State, I took Georgia Tech with the points. I took Nevada with a bunch of points against SMU. It was proven right. I think early on, I don't think they've got a real bead on teams yet. 38 to 41. I wrote a column on style points, the importance of them, and I think they do matter in some situations. Against Chattanooga, for example, if Tennessee would win 38-0, okay, I think against, and this is kind of an image thing, it's nothing analytical. I think Tennessee should have in the 40s at least against a team like Chattanooga. It's an FCS opponent. It's outmanned, and Tennessee's got a big offense. If Tennessee only scores 38 points against Chattanooga, I think that's a concern.
Well, the line is for them to win by 38 points, but not score 38.
I know. I know that. That's why. Yeah, if they win 48-10, that's fine. I'm just saying you could win 39-0, beat the spread, but so Tennessee only scored 5 touchdowns maybe and kicked a field goal or something against Chattanooga.
2 safeties.
Well, yeah, that happens all the time. I was shocked that it didn't happen in any of those games I watched Saturday. But I just think you're supposed to have this big-time offense with Josh Heupel. You got the big-time quarterback with Nico, and you don't score in the 40s on Chattanooga? That would bother me.
You know, John, when you first threw out 38-0, I thought you were going in another direction because the 0 would show that Tennessee played defense. What, from a style point standpoint, what would be more impressive, scoring 60 points or Tennessee's defense just completely shutting down Chattanooga?
Well, Tennessee's defense completely shut down Iowa in the Citrus Bowl.
It's true.
And, I mean, Iowa, everybody knew Iowa had virtually no offense. It was its best offense was its punter. But in Chattanooga, though might have a good offense for its level, it's still FCS opponent. So I wouldn't say, wow, that defense is unbelievable. They shut out Chattanooga. Are you kidding me? Nobody might score on them all year. No, I would look at it because Josh Heupel's all about offense, and he's never been shy about scoring more points and gaining more yards. If you got under 40, that to me is a concern. Go back to Joe Milton's first start against Bowling Green. What did Tennessee get? 38?
Yep.
Two games later, he was became the backup quarterback.
So I think we're all in agreement in this era of the college football playoff against Chattanooga. These type of games, you have to have some style points, I think, if you're, in the running at the end of the year.
Well, no, I'm in the minority once again, guys. I mean, I think it's an in-state school. I think if you're up by 35 points at halftime, and you just meander through a second half as long as you don't commit stupid penalties and stuff, I'm okay with that. So,
but Dave, that would be that's style points. So if you're up by 35 at halftime and then you call off the dogs, style points, people will see that you called off the dogs.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, to me that's a bare minimum. I mean, okay, so yes, anything other than that would be disappointing. If it is 20-3 at halftime, red flag.
Yes. Yeah. So here's my question, and John, I want to know what your thoughts are on this. I worry with a team like Tennessee, and they wouldn't be the first to be this way. Now, I know this doesn't always apply historically because Nebraska was a physical football team who won with style points because they won every game like 50-0, it felt like, during the triple option years. But typically, them being the exception, I feel like there was a persona of pass-oriented skill position teams, even though Tennessee runs, but a team that runs an offense like Josh Heupel's that drops 60 regularly on lesser opponents. And I feel like the perception is that they can run up the score against lesser opponents because they're all finesse, but when they get to facing physical teams like Georgia or in the playoff, they're not good enough to hang. And I feel like that perception has always been out there. And my best example was Florida under Spurrier running up the score on everybody, and then they face a physical team like Nebraska in 95 and get blown out. So do you think from that perspective, the psychological aspect, style points could actually work against Tennessee because it feeds the stereotype that they're a finesse team?
I really don't think the selection committee's going as deep as you are, Caleb. Maybe they should, but I don't. Here, I think if that would have happened maybe 10 years ago, it would be more of a factor, because I think now we're accustomed to seeing big scores in college football. We see high-scoring games, and I wonder about teams. When I look at a team and it's winning 38-0, I wonder always, and it's physical, it's dominant on defense, it runs the ball, controls the line of scrimmage. I think, what if it gets up against a better team and it can't do that? Does it have the firepower to make the big plays, to go 80 yards on its last possession in a playoff game? So I lean to offense now the way I used to lean to defense. I see it as an offensive league, and you better be able to score a lot of points. Now I don't. Sorry, John. Okay, go ahead.
No.
Against Chattanooga, it's a certain level I think you have to attain for image purposes. If you score, it doesn't matter if you win 45-0 or 55-0. I think once you reach a certain point, it doesn't matter. And to Dave's point, where you leading at half, or Caleb's, it's 35-0 at half, and you end up winning 48-3. It was obvious when your first team was out there, you were dominant. You're supposed to be dominant for a period of time, so that doesn't matter. But the example I used and this bothers some people. The example I used in a column was, say Tennessee's playing NC State. Last possession, Tennessee is up by 9 points. The game's in hand. Tennessee's on NC State's 20-yard line, minute and a half to go. It can run out the clock. I think it needs to score, because I think, say, a 16-point win over a team that could make the top 25 looks better than a 9-point win. And some people say that's running up the score and it doesn't really matter that much. I disagree. When I'm evaluating teams, and I'm going down the list of scores, and I see beat NC State, ranked 23rd in the country, by 16 points. I'm not thinking back, well, they scored right there at the end. No, you got a million games you're looking at. I'm just seeing the score, and I think it matters.
Vote on our poll question on our YouTube page. Should the Vols run up the score against Chattanooga? Oh, yeah, light it up. Gets 87%. No, an inferior in-state team gets 13%. So, John, I think clearly you are.
Who cares?
Yeah, you're on the right side. I was going to try to take the defense of this is an in-state team. They get their money, take it easy on them, but it appears as if I'm in the minority. But my point was, Caleb, and then you can go where you want to go. If they're up 35-0, I don't think there's a point in keeping Nico out there to get to 70-0. I guess we had two different definitions of running up the score.
Yeah, I don't mind if you pull the starters and run up the score. Like, I know Jimmy Johnson gets a lot of hate for running up the score on Notre Dame in '85, in that Notre Dame high school, that coach's last game. It was Jerry Faust was his name. I can't remember. But he pulled the starters in the third quarter. It's not their fault if you can't stop their backups. But John, I do break from you of like, if you're up by 9 and you can run out the clock and you leave your starters in to go for a touchdown, I think the committee would catch that. I think that'd be a headline. That'd be a headline everywhere. And so because of the headline, they would know about it. And I think the headline would actually look worse than the actual touchdown.
There's a possibility that some people would look at it that way. I could see that. Yeah. I'm just, I don't have any problem with teams, quote, running up the score. I think it's stupid if you keep your starters in when the game's in hand and you're risking injury, certainly. But
like
if you got your backup, if you got your backups in and you're racking up points, you run your offense. I don't care how, this is not, it's the defense's job to stop you. I mean, if you want to put an end to that, put in a mercy rule. And say, if you're up by 42 points in the fourth quarter, game over, go home. Thanks for playing. But don't complain about how bad you're getting beat when the second and third teamers are scoring touchdowns on you. You shouldn't have scheduled the game.
Preach. Everybody agrees with me.